Welcome to Kaplan's Learn Better podcast. My name is Stuart Pedley-Smith, Head of Learning at Kaplan here in the UK. In this series, you're going to hear from both students and experts as we take a look at a range of topics related to personal and career success in the world of accountancy and finance. My guest today is Dan Sodergren. He's an expert on the future of work and an AI evangelist. His back catalogue speaks for itself. He's a founder, writer, trainer and accomplished speaker with over 20 years of experience in telling stories about the impact of technology on life and work. And one other thing, he managed to put his type 2 diabetes into remission through changes in diet and lifestyle, which is hugely impressive. Dan, thanks for joining me.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for such a lovely summing up of my life. My mother will be indeed proud of all these things that I've done. As my mum always said, serial entrepreneur maybe, but I don't see you sitting on a beach. So she's got a good point. She's a mean person, my mother. I'm kidding, Jenny. She's not. She's never said that. I was just a joke. She's not mean at all. She's lovely.
Dan, can we start with a little bit about, I suppose, your background? So there's a couple of questions in this. So the first one is around how do you become an expert in the future of work and effectively a futurologist? How did you get into AI and ultimately become so positive about it, I guess?
That's a great series of questions. So I'll start from the beginning, I suppose. How do you become a futurist or a tech futurist? I think a futurologist is very different. I am occasionally called a futurologist. I always try to push back a bit on that because then people think I kind of do Mystic Meg and stuff, or I can tell what the lottery numbers are going to be or when the next pandemic will be. This is not the case. It's with technology, of course, it's logical progression stuff. So as a tech futurist, how do you become a tech futurist? Well, between me and you do a load of stuff in technology way before other people do, way before it's sensible to do it, and way before you can make money from it. So it's not something I'm kind of proud of it when the BBC say, "Oh, tech futurologist" or tech, Dan Sodergren. I'd much rather they called me, billionaire philanthropist Dan Sodergren. I'd much rather they said that. So, to be fair, so I did. So, for example, I had a hemp company trying to do things environmentally with CBD and all these other cool things 25 years ago, and that's kind of coming on now. From a tech point of view, I did a company called Go Augmented, which was a augmented reality company 15 years ago. And that's only really coming on now. You could argue that Your Flock which was around HR tech and values and things like that. That was 5 or 6 years ago. And I was into mobile. So I'm one of those people who kind of stands in the, kind of, people say prophet in the wilderness kind of fellows where, I'm saying, look, it's going to be the year of mobile. So I was saying it's the year of mobile like years and years ago. And it just wasn't for ages and ages. And everyone's like, mobiles won't be important. Phones are just phones, Dan. Stop getting so excited. These Nokia phones will never be replaced. Etc. So I was the person saying, I think, these might be big, right? Same principle with, mobile gaming. Mobile gaming is pathetic. No one will ever do it. I think you'll find it became, I can still remember a friend of mine was saying, and I was saying, look, gaming will become bigger than movies. And they were like, no, don't be stupid. It'll never be bigger than movies. Movies are massive. And this was a very highly respected person, not surprising enough, in movies. And I was saying, no, games will be just as big. And games, the IP will cross again. It'll be madness. Of course, they have been. In fact, now you see, games that become movies and the other way around. So, but all this stuff is actually predictable. It's actually very easy to predict because technology only gets better and better, right? So to answer your second question around AI, how did I kind of know about it? Well, because by complete luck, my friend of mine, who is called Tom Old, who was also an investor in Your Flock, one of his best friends, he was the best man at his wedding, is Demis Habblis. Now, Demis Habblis, if you know or don't know, you don't have to because you don't have to be a massive geek like me, was the guy who came up with DeepMind and the founder of DeepMind, which he then sold for, I think it's 458 million to Google. And so he now heads Google's division around AI, right? But where did all that cleverness come from? Well, 20 years ago when I was talking to Demis is in gaming and I love gaming. And this is where I kind of came from, which came from gaming. So, things like Railway Tycoon and Theme Park and those things. Demis made Railway Tycoon, So those games from years ago where you kind of played against the computer and it's all, this simulation stuff. This is where not the idea of AI came from, but this is where a lot of the mechanics comes from. And this is why, by the way, the AI systems use graphic information. I won't get too geeky in it. My point is, it has a background in gaming, which is why things like it was really good at, remember like when Deep Blue beat Kasparov in the chess game. This is how old we are, yeah? But then it was then AlphaGo, which was meant to be impossible for it to do. So the reason why I'm so positive around AI is because AI is just hyper computerized technology where everybody always says AI can't do this, and then in a couple of months, AI then does that. Yeah. So AlphaGo was meant to be impossible for a human being to lose at AlphaGo. And it did it. It did it pretty quickly, right? It was meant to be impossible for AI to become so creative, and yet it has. Yeah. So I love stories or technologies that can change the world and that can do so for everybody, which is why I loved, mobiles. It's why I loved computers years ago. I was programming on a ZX Spectrum when I was 16, because these things have the ability to change people's lives and for the better. And so, I'm also, Stuart, I'm just a massive geek. Yeah. So I get very excited. And I could even be a nerd. I'm not really sure. I don't think I'm a dog. I might be a dog. I don't know. But there's lots of these things, right? So yeah, so I now get paid to do keynotes around the future of work. Again, very lucky because I, great believer in diversity and inclusion, but also I was talking about hybrid work and remote work because of the technology stuff. 10 years ago, and then of course COVID happened, and this massive change happened. So we had, a year's worth, we had 10 years worth of digital transformation in a year. And I was just lucky enough to be on the right side of history because I'd been talking about this stuff a long time beforehand, and everyone thought I was crazy. And then everyone was doing Zooms and doing the stuff, and we were being better for the environment. And it was a positive time. So yeah, it's mainly luck. But to be honest with you, sometimes it's just doing stuff before other people do.
Right. Thank you. Can I just, you touched on it just actually, and in the introduction, this idea of the future of work. So the sort of statement of skills, not jobs. So the vast majority of people listening to the podcast will work in accounting and finance, and there'll probably be a spectrum. I'm guessing that some people will be dismissive in terms of saying, well, the job that I do, I don't think it will ever replace because I do really clever things. Then there'll be the bit in the middle where somebody will say, well, I'm really undecided, I don't know. And then there'll be people at the other end of the spectrum where they'll be saying, look, AI is going to come and take my job, and I'm really worried about it. So can you talk about the idea of skills in the workplace and how AI will work with that as you see it, but with a finance spin? And I know you know a little bit about finance.
I do. I have the joy of knowing a bit about finance, professional services, and these are their areas. In fact, I'm doing a training session for some senior leadership people in a company which I won't mention because it's not allowed to work for them. But anyway, point being is that there's three different camps. Hopefully, there's a fourth camp, and I think a lot of young people who I talk to are in the fourth camp, which is where they know that AI is positive and it helps them, and they're going to be using it. And they're going to be using it now. I think we sometimes misunderstand that it unfortunately there can be an age thing here where older people, a bit like we can remember, Stuart, computers. I can remember having bosses who said, I'm not doing emails. These newfangled things called emails. I have a secretary. I'm not going to do emails. Right. And they would write the thing down, and then the poor person would have to then type it out into an email and send it. Right. And we can smile about it because, of course, it was funny. Yeah. And then that boss either retired or had to change. That was the choice, really. And so most bosses now, or leaders of companies, will say, email, that's not a problem. Then it was like social media, when everyone's like, I'm not doing social media, I'm not good, tweeting is for twits, etc. All that kind of stuff, right? So we have that other moment where it becomes a generation thing. Now, it's not a generation thing, as in it's not like because you're old, therefore you don't understand. But it's a bizarre correlation between those two when it comes to advances in technology. There's always resistance. There's always early adopters. There's always the late adopters, etc. And it's up to you whether you become a late adopter or not, which is psychology. It's not your age. So the silver surfer is one of the biggest growing markets for social media, right? But it's taken a long time for my parents to get into the idea of doing social media because they're like 80. Yeah, it took a long time for them to get an iPhone because they were like 70. So it's the same principle. Now, with AI's come around it's been around for like 14, 15 years. We've got to remember OpenAI is not a new company. But because of what they did and they opened the doors in November last year, the change that's happened has been so rapid that it's like everyone suddenly got computers delivered to their houses. And most people don't know what to do with a computer. So they just put it by the door and they just go, oh, well, it's a doorstop. Don't know why they sent me this. I can't use it anyway. Right, fine. But that's a mindset, isn't it? That's a mindset. If you haven't unboxed the new kit you've got, everyone now, Stuart, can have their own intern. That's amazing, right? Now, it depends what you want to do with that information. Now, I was talking to John Amici the other day, and I was doing a talk for another company in HR, and they're thinking the same thing. it's not just finance. Everybody's saying the same thing. But if you look at something, for example, like Code Interpreter is part of GPT-4, right? And when I was talking to John Amici, he'd never heard of this. And John Amici is like a renowned expert psychologist who is, you know, multi-award winning, but all this stuff. But he's not a massive geek, right? So I was like, John, do you know if you could become a data scientist now for your clients just by using Code Interpreter? And he was like, don't be ridiculous. I was like, go and do it. And you could do it instantly. So what my point is, Stuart, you could become a C grade data scientist just from knowing that and from 20 minutes of exploration. But it normally takes 4 years to learn how to become a data scientist. So that's why it changes the future of work, because actually a lot of the stuff that you think you're learning about, you know, you said there about being technically good, you know, people are good at their, but actually think about it. It's like how the internet changed jobs. You know, we didn't have to remember everything because we had the internet. Well, it didn't. Did it make us work less? Did people lose jobs when the internet happened? When computers happened? When Excel happened? Did we lose accountancies or accountants? No, there's more of them than ever.
I want to stay with that theme, but I just want to just pick back into something that you said there, just for people that might not know what happened in November last year in terms of the generative AI models. So can you just sort of paraphrase what that change was? So there's AI, and then there's the generative AI through OpenAI and ChatGPT. Can you just fill that backstory just briefly for us? Because I think people will find that interesting.
Yeah, of course. So the interesting thing about OpenAI as a company, Sam Altman's the CEO, is they did something that most people in the AI world were saying that they shouldn't do. They basically almost open sourced it. They gave it to everybody and for free, right? Now, the reason why they could do this is because, well, because they potentially had lots of money from people like Microsoft coming, but that's a different point entirely. But because they did it, 100 million people joined up and started using it, right? It took the telephone, to get to 100 million users, took the telephone, I remember. So yeah, 72 years. It took ChatGPT 72 days. And that made the system get better and better and better. Yeah. Now that's accelerated everything, right? So with generative AI, and you could argue, I don't want to get too bogged down in the semantics of it, but let's say, for example, things like Mid-Journey, where you're creating images and these other things, they've got better and better and better because people use it more and more. In fact, there is an argument now that there are more generative AI images that have been created than it took photography 150 years to get to. Yeah, that's the number of images that have been created. There's billions. And so this thing's got better and better and better and better and better and better and better. And we've got to remember, when we say AI, it's the same as saying computers. Like, you know, if you have a PC, that is different to a Mac. If you have a bad PC, that is different to a good PC. So if you've got, it always makes me smile because people are like, oh, GPT 3.5. It's like, yeah, but you've got to remember there was a 1. So the 1 was, 14 years ago, 7 years ago, right? It's 3.5. I was like, oh, this is good. It's like 3.5 should tell you a story. So these things have been around for a while and they weren't always good. And I always like to say it's GPT 3.5 is like asking a 16-year-old what to do, and 4 is like asking a 21-year-old. So if you are not using 4, please do so, because not using 4 is very, very naughty and very bad. 4 only costs £20 a month. Okay, I'm not here an advert for OpenAI by any stretch of the imagination, but £20 a month is like a gym membership. But for that, you get access to one of the most potentially life-changing technologies that the world has ever seen.
And I guess the thing is, the word generative is key here, isn't it? I think that the November sort of OpenAI launch, the ChatGPT, it made that technology, or the AI technology, accessible for ordinary people, whereas before it was locked behind some sort of mysterious firewall that nobody could quite access, that people have been talking about. And the other thing is that it's generating new, would you say original? Would you use the word original? It's generating new text or new images, which,
well, they are new images.
Again, is quite exciting.
Yeah, well, again, you've got to be careful sometimes with words here, because you could say AI doesn't understand or know anything. It just replicates what it already knows into a different variable. But I'd argue that's what all human beings do. So, if you say, is this a new image? Well, no, it's not, because actually it's a formulation of 1,000 images, and therefore it's not new. But of course it's new, because it never existed before. So by its very nature, it's a new image. Did AI create it? No, the human being who gave the prompt created it, which is why this argument about art, like if art is just intention, then therefore these pieces should be able to win awards because it's the intention of the prompt, which is the intention of the artist. You can't just say, "Oh, the computer made it." That's like, it's like saying when people, you remember when people would print things off and then use a photocopier? It's like saying, "Well, this is photocopied." What are you talking? It's so what? No one cares. Oh, no, but you didn't do it by hand. What? No one cares, man. I mean, maybe people do, but they shouldn't. And then, of course, you've got this piece of, is AI amazing at certain things? Yes. And what it is amazing at the moment is things like the replication of information and the knowledge behind that. Okay. So we can get a bit silly about it and start thinking that AI is sentient, but it's not sentient. It's just mimicking what it knows from the internet and the database. And it's just mimicking what it knows from data. Yeah.
So just in terms of coming back to the skill thing now, Dan, so just in terms of, so we've got this piece of technology. For people who've not seen it, it's just particularly the large language version of ChatGPT 3.5 to 4 that Dan's been talking about. It's just like a little letterbox. You type into it and it gives you answers. But you've also alluded to there are image generators, code generators. How, parking the image one, I'm thinking of finance here and looking at application.
Yeah.
Thinking of people's jobs that they do today and our sort of 3/4 sort of personas, will it take people's jobs? Is there an Armageddon scenario, or is this an
No.
upskilling thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an upskilling thing, Stuart. You're absolutely right to say that. It's like the same with computers. Did computers take people's jobs? No. Did software take people's job? No. But AI is just a mixture of hardware and software again. It's the speed of how great it is that have caught people off guard, right? So if you now can have a personal assistant, which is a chatbot, the letterbox thing you're talking about there, and you can say to it, imagine, this is the thing that's amazing. So in the AI marketing course, we talk about you create personas for the machine. So you can say, imagine you are a finance director with 10 years experience and you excel in blah, 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 right? You can create this persona for it. And by doing that, you make the machine work better because it imagines it is the thing. Now that's, in my opinion, mind-blowing already. But so if you go into it and don't give it a good enough prompt, you'll get a bad response. But if you start learning about prompt engineering, which is what we teach in the AI marketing course, not about finance, but about marketing, then it can come out with better results. Now, the thing that's going to be really exciting is and I've got to be careful words here, because it just sounds like an advert for Microsoft, but Microsoft have a huge suite of products which AI is going to live in. Yeah, it's going to be there whether you like it or not. And you can be able to say to Excel, like you would talk to someone who was amazing using Excel or data, and say, hey, what I need to know is this. And the machine will go bling, 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 and it'll come up with the answer from your data set. Yeah. But this is the exciting thing, Stuart. You still need to know the right questions to ask. You still need to be good at what you do to get the right answers, if that makes sense. The new skill will be in asking the machine the right questions and creating the right prompts, which is a skill set we all have to learn. This is the same for if you want to create a really good blog for marketing. If you just go to the ChatGPT and say, write me a blog, that's not a good prompt. But what you could do, this is what I teach, is you can do a whole system of different things behind it and create an amazing blog really quickly. Like it took me 20 minutes to do a blog yesterday. It would normally take me 3 hours. Okay. Now it might be exactly the same with Excel and the new Copilot system. It might be exactly the same for your annual report. It might be exactly the same for the analysis you had to do. It might be exactly the same. You might even need to delegate the responsibility to somebody else in the team anymore because you can get the answers you want from the data you already have. Now, to me, that's exciting because that is the opportunity then to do the more human bit of your job. And the more human bit of your job is not the heavy lifting of the information and the data. It's asking the right questions and being a better human and working together better and being nicer. Because everyone gets so stressed at work. It was like, I haven't got time to talk to you, I haven't got time to be nice because I've got to do this report. But what happens if AI did the report? I instead of I walked my dog because the blog was done. I went and saw a friend because the blog was done. I did other stuff. I'm not saying that we should become hyper productive for productivity's sake. But what I will say is that we have an opportunity here. If you don't, it's a bit of a cliche, but AI won't replace you, but somebody using AI will. That's the reality. It's the same with computers. It's the same with the internet. It's the same with electricity, Stuart. Like, how far back do we need to go? It's the same with technology. If you don't use a well and you walk down to the river every day, you may have missed a trick. It's the same principle here.
So for people listening, I guess what you're saying is if they forget the job titles, because job titles are a bit sort of misleading, and they mean
Mhm.
different things, don't they, in different organisations. And look at the skills and look at the tasks that individuals are doing. So if you're saying, on a Monday morning, I start pulling these numbers together into a spreadsheet. On Tuesday morning, I look at those numbers, I slot them into a comparator, I look at the differences, and I write a board report on the variances that we've seen that month. That entire process could be reduced down to, can you take last month's numbers, put them into this month's numbers, work out the variances, highlighting the ones that are more than 10% increase from last year. Based on our past reports, can you then produce a report that is meaningful, valuable for the board?
That's
And you can
exactly what you can, and you can push a
and you
button
press a
and
button.
it will do it in about 25 seconds. And that's exactly what you can do. And it's literally mind blowing. And you do it and you say, oh my goodness, this isn't right. And then if you're really clever, which of course everyone on the call will be, you then, of course, your job is to read through the report, make sure that it's all correct and it sounds good, and then maybe go back to it. Honestly, it's like having an internship. You then go back to it and say, hey, really, and by the way, be nice to them. So always say please and thank you. Bizarrely enough, saying please and thank you actually gets you better results than if you don't. How
Does
spooky
it?
is that?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can actually make it do other things just by flattering it. So the machine might say, I can't really do that. And you go, oh, you can, because I really know I believe in you. And honestly, the machine will change its response. And you know why that is? This literally, they only just found this out in the last couple of weeks. And it's to do with the fact that it's based on learning what human beings talk like and act like. And so it's just mimicking what human beings would do.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to be a good manager to the machine as well. You can't be a bad manager because then you get a bad result. But this is exactly the same as if you don't give someone the clarity, like what you just said there is brilliant because it had clarity. Yeah. You could do a specific purpose to it. Now, for a prompt, you might want to start off saying, imagine you are a financial director with 10 years of experience, right? But if you use something like typing mind, you could create those characters first, and so you wouldn't have to keep doing that bit. But the outcome is what you're talking about. The outcome, yeah, that bit. For example, with the blog I wrote it because I then had to edit it and I added my bits in. So using AI is a bit like, I know, having a replicator in Star Wars or whatever, or Star Trek or whatever it is, or I don't know, having something that just instantly creates food, yeah? And you go, spaghetti bolognese, please, and it bling, 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 spaghetti bolognese appears, right? But you might taste it and be like, well, this is like a generic spaghetti bolognese. It's not like my mum used to make it. So you'd have to tell it the ingredients to use. And even then you might be like, oh, it's still missing something. And then your job is to add that little something, right? So this is why in
Yeah.
my TEDx talk, I talk about the future of work isn't what you think and it's not what you feel, it's what you love. Because it's the love bit. I know it sounds a little bit hippie, but it's the love bit. It's the engaging with the task and loving the outcome and loving what you do. That's what the machine can't do. The machine can't tell if it's a good blog or not, but it can create something and you can go, well, I put this bit in so it sounds even better. And that's what human beings will start doing. But this could be, and this is going to be the same for finance, law, health, everything. 80% of your job, for most people who work in the knowledge sector, 80% of your job will be changed. It will not, most of it will be automated, but that automation doesn't get rid of you. It just means you do it differently. Just like computers didn't get rid of people. I kind of wish, the computers did get rid of jobs because then we could all have more fun. But I don't, what I mean? I've worked harder since the invention of the computer than before. So I don't know how it works. I think with AI, though, there is a chance that, and then the big companies are all saying now there's a potential for us to go down to a 4-day work week or 3.5-day work weeks because of this technology jump. That's the newest stats that are coming out. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah. And I guess there'll be a lot of people listening to that. Well, what's so bad about this? And I suppose the argument is, as long as you maintain the same level of income, isn't it? This is a good thing. If I'm only earning a third or 2/3 of what I was earning before.
But no, okay, well, that's really important. That is a thing we need to talk about now. That is a thing we need to talk about with bosses and the rest of it. So is our job as human beings to be more productive and to give that money and that profit to somebody else because we're more productive? And this is actually quite a deep question because this jump in productivity, which they're saying is going to be about 40%, does that mean that bosses go, well done, everyone, you've done a great job. If you keep working like this, I'll buy a Lamborghini, right? Which is awesome for the boss, and I'm a boss of my business, so it's great for leaders. But actually, if you're all doing this work, that's a bit mean, isn't it? If the leader just goes, well, you've got the same outcomes, but I tell you what, because of AI, I'm going to half your wage. That shouldn't be
Yeah.
allowed, should it? Now, the problem we're going to have is that we are not equipped at this moment in time from a legal point of view, because we have very, very few employee rights in some respect, to be able to withstand this moment. Because if honestly, what will lots of people do? Let's put it a different way. What would you do? Would you do half the amount of your work and have the same outcomes and have more time off, or would you work twice? Would you give your boss twice as much output?
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
that's
I don't have the answer.
yeah, and that's the tricky bit, isn't it? Because people do, cut down to 4-day weeks, but still work still work
Yeah,
5 days, don't they?
yeah, they do. Yeah,
Can I,
but
can I
I'm
just
working
ask you?
six. So go on.
Yeah, true. Can I just ask you about Dan? Can I just ask you about security? So once again, in finance, there'll be a lot of concerns around privacy. There's lots of personal details, and I'm not thinking here per se on the GDPR side. I'm just thinking of
No, totally.
confidential company records that are restricted to a group of people. Are there potential risks in using OpenAI or using ChatGPT, OpenAI's products, or any of the others, Bard, there's lots of others, aren't there,
Mhm.
by uploading content from your company into it and then it being accessible to others?
Number one, no, because technically you're never actually uploading it, if that makes sense. You're making use of the model. The model isn't really seeing what it sees. Now, got to be really careful words here. So, with certain products, especially those that are free, they will be training on your data set. Do not use free products for work ever. Full stop. Right? This is exactly the same with email or a laptop or the cloud. Like you can't use free stuff because free stuff isn't protected and free stuff is learning from you. Now, if you don't know that and you're very, kind of new in your career, just write it down. Write it down, put it on your forehead, whatever you need to do. You can't use free stuff for work. It's not allowed. It's not because it's dangerous. That's dangerous stuff, right? Also, employee law will very, very soon change and you will be done if you have done that. Most people don't have an AI ethics policy anyway at the moment, but they're going to need it very soon because what happens if you put all the report through 3.5? Well, I'm not saying that it isn't safe, but you're not paying for the product. And therefore, why should it be safe? Don't believe safety is there inherently in a free product. It's the opposite. Also, it's training on your data set, potentially. Anyway, that's kind of an aside, except everyone don't use free stuff. Now, this is really important for leaders as well. Do not pay for stuff for all your staff, because that's the same as not giving them a computer, right? That's the same thing. It's like not giving them, a computer or an office or a chair. It's just insane. Like you're just going, well, I don't know why Jimmy started using 3.5. Did you pay for 4? It's £20 a month. No, we can't afford that. Well, then it's your own fault because you're not giving the resources. It's your own. I mean, literally bad leadership. It's your own fault, right? Then you have a slightly deeper point, which is we're talking about GPT-4 like it's the only game, that there's like thousands of these things you can use. And by the way, each one of them is better at certain things. Okay, so I work in marketing, so it just happens that OpenAI is fantastic at words of marketing. If you're doing stuff with massive amounts of data, especially around writing, you want to use something like Claude, because Claude's much better at that. Bard's getting better and better. I'm just not a fan of it. Sorry, Demis, I'm just not, But these are only the 3 or 4 main ones, right? But there are then thousands of other companies that are built, tens of thousands of other companies. It's a $1 trillion opportunity where they've used their own proprietary data sets to enrich these large language models anyway. And then there's something even cleverer, which is why EY have just put in billions of pounds into stuff. And there's loads of these companies, PwC just put in billions of pounds because they know they should have their own large language model and they know they should have their own AI system. Because not only do they want to make sure it's completely safe, but actually the proprietary data they're putting in is their special source and it makes the machine better for them. This is exactly the same as having 10,000 interns and not training them in the way of PwC. Well, you wouldn't you? You wouldn't just say, do what you want, run around. Of course you wouldn't. You'd be like, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Please all work at this project, right? Now, if you're big enough to own your own, then the whole world changes. But if you're not big enough, this is why AI is so exciting. It doesn't make any difference because you can still use GPT-4, you can still use Code Interpreter, you can still use all these other ones, all the spin-offs, all the different startups. You can still use this. You do it yourself. Is it safe? Insanely so. It's a bit like saying, is the internet safe? Is the cloud safe? Yeah, we've gone past the world as is the cloud safe. This stuff's all in the cloud. Of course it's safe. Because if it wasn't, they wouldn't exist. Like you couldn't not have an enterprise package system for using GPT-4 because they'd be sued out of existence instantly. So is it secure? It's about secure as the internet. So the internet's pretty secure, right? It's about secure as your phone. And your phone's pretty secure. Now you can get silly and your tech guys will say, oh no, it's not secure. We need to have a double firewall and everyone needs to have a BlackBerry. You remember when everyone had to have a BlackBerry? Because can you remember? You can't bring your own device to work. Why not? Because because death will come from the sky. What? It's just unbelievable. Now, the point being is, of course, technology got better, security got better, and I'm not belittling the amazing, literally the trillions of pounds that went into cybersecurity to make it secure. But all these systems are secure, yes, very much so. If they're not, you've got to be more worried, of your own computer, I think, than you have to be worried about using enterprise from, Microsoft gave them £10 billion. You don't give someone £10 billion if you think, and let it go into all your suite of products for a $1 trillion company if you think they might be a bit broken.
Yeah, I really like the simplicity and clarity around if it's free. Do you know what I mean? It's not, you know what I mean? Because I can see a lot of organisations just sort of saying, well, why should we pay for something that is free? As an individual does. But it almost comes back to your point about having some sort of either an ethics or a business strategy around your use of AI. And you might say, whilst we recognise individuals might use 3.5, they are not allowed to put in personal data, they're not allowed to do this, da da da. However, when at work, we pay for the services, therefore you can play with it, but effectively in a safe environment.
Well, for me, it's exactly the same. Can you not remember when we all got laptops and you got work laptops and he said, what can you do on your work laptop? And you kind of knew that you couldn't do some of the stuff you do at home on your work laptop, right?
Yeah.
Now that's kind of started to kind of ease back a bit. Can you remember you weren't even allowed to download different browsers? And I can still remember people being completely watertight around Microsoft. Can't put in Chrome. Well, our ITs won't let us. And then people still say that. It's hilarious, right? Yeah. The same principle, Dave, will be, and it's just because of a lag. You've got to remember, Stuart, as you know, this stuff people didn't really know about until 9 months ago. Okay. Now think about how long it took computers to start having the conversations, and then the IT guys came in and said, "Oh, security, and all that kind of stuff." Rightly so, by the way. And then how long does it take websites? Well, do we need a website? No, we've still got a printed copy of our catalog, and everyone likes catalogs, right? But same principle. But this has come instantly. This has happened so quickly. This is the same as it could be it's almost like an alien landing on the planet. Like, it's so quick that people have to take a step back. But actually, the leaders of the companies have to realize this is a moment of complex change. They have to create, bring in people with the skills. Yeah, you have to have the vision, you have to have the resources, you have to have incentives. Here's a big one for most companies. Most companies don't have an incentive. So what happens to it if you've created an amazing prompt which creates that report and it does it infinitely better than the ones that you've been created by a friend of yours? Do you give it to your friend and say, hey, you should do this? Or do you say, mwah, it's all mine, it's my IP, right? Because you might go, that's me, I created that because it's technically your IP. Now here's interesting. If you then put, and this is what I would say people should do, you put all that into a centralized document of understanding, then your company gets better all the time because you're using AI in a better way. But there's no incentive for you to do so. So what you should do is say, Stuart, great prompt, 500 quid. Boom, everyone starts doing it.
And they are done, aren't they? They are now. Okay. I think it was Microsoft had launched a prompt library. So companies are actually organizations are putting up places to share prompts, because prompts are the algorithms, aren't they? Effectively, that people can suddenly, and they will say, and I follow quite a lot of AI sort of leaders, and they'll say, use this prompt, and you can literally lift it off the page, put it in your GPT, and it will do whatever it says it will.
Well, so this is the future of work stuff, right? So the future of work will be around how do we make sure and how do we help the machines to get better, but also how do we help each other? So when I do keynotes, I talk about collaboration, innovation, and then admiration. That was my last keynote, which for HR people. And the whole point here is that how do we collaborate together more using AI? So this is the prompt library. So PwC should have a prompt library. EY should have a prompt library. The local accountant should have a prompt library, because that's their intellectual property, but also that's the thing. If you just said yourself, you can follow people on the internet and you can get new, better prompts. Of course you can. You can follow someone like Ethan Mollick and all these brilliant people. There's a whole host of people that aren't hiding information. They're giving it away freely. Yeah. The question for us all will be, in a slightly competitive work environment, are you used to giving away stuff freely? Like, are you working as a team, or are you all individuals who all want to battle against each other and become the boss, right? That's a deeper question for us all, right? But if you have a kind of sense of camaraderie and collaboration, and you start being innovative and being proud of using that innovation, which is why I suggest we all do, and then you all like each other, you're going to share prompts with each other. Of course you are, because it's just a good thing to do, right? That raises the bar, so we have to have this is the admiration bit. The AI gives us the chance to do this. It's whether we all want to. AI has the opportunity to change. I mean, for example, for my industry, which is marketing, it's already changed it. And you can now, marketing teams are now, we're a completely different kettle of fish. If you're a solo entrepreneur or you're a small business, you don't need a marketing person really anymore because the founder can do their own marketing, right? Now that should be scary in some respect, but in the other respect, you can now do more work for more clients than ever before. So as an agency, your output is, tripled. The ability is now tripled, but only if everyone uses AI. Yeah. Those people who don't use AI, they're still doing it back in the day on computers and worrying about stuff. But AI won't. I'll give you one last thing, which is they've just done some stats on this. As Ethan Mollett, you might know this bit already, but it's really important for your industry as well. So they did the tests, and if you're a consultant using AI, it's something like, I'll just remember it from my keynote. So that's it. So it's you do 12.5 tasks more, so about a 10% increase in productivity. 25% and 25.4% more quickly. Okay, and the last one, which is the kicker, 40% better than not using AI. Okay, so if you think about it, if you just took one of those, that would be quite exciting for your job. I could give you this magic pill and you do stuff 10% more. Well, that's great, great bit of productivity. But you also do it 25% quicker. Sugar lumps. But it's 40% better. That's where you get that's where you get your 4-day work week. But you also get an increase of productivity of around 40%. Now, this is the same for coders, same for finance people, same for marketeers. But some of this is no word of a lie, some of us in things like marketing, it's much higher than 40%. And here's the real kicker for you, Stuart, and this is beautiful, because no one knew this would happen. It doesn't make a great coder better. It makes someone who doesn't know how to code just as good as someone who can code, if that makes sense to you, right? But this is the same again. If you know nothing about law, you're now as good as the average lawyer. If you know nothing about being a doctor, you're now as good as the average doctor, because you're not doing it. The AI machine's doing it, right? It's just like when I teach people about AI, they're like, oh my God, Dan, you're brilliant. And it's like, no, I'm not, but the AI is amazing. So you think it's me. It's got nothing to do with me. Go and use, Code Interpreter. It's astounding, but that's just an amazing bit of technology, right? So same principle is, if you, and this is why I get so excited by it, it means that everybody who's at the smaller part of their career, they can now take a massive jump ahead. Now, the question for us all is, should they do so without the deeper knowledge of what that jump means?
Yes.
Because I know what great marketing is, because I've done marketing for 20 years and I know a good blog when I read one, and I know how to change it to make it great. But what happens if you've never written a blog or never done a tweet or never done anything? You now can, but are you going to create things that are good or things that are great? Well, that's just with a bit of practice. But it's exciting anyway that you could even just do it to good.
I think that's a great question, actually. And I think, moving past the lack of, or the ignorance of what the technology can do into practicing it, you do get to that point. And that's where you can look at it and say, the magic sauce that I bring is I don't write 100 words, but I only change 6. And
absolutely.
Those six words is my IP, which is why I'm still here. Dan, I know we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask you something on terms of what people should do. So individuals, so we've had quite a wide range of conversation, but if I'm listening to this, I'm in finance, I might just be qualified, I might be qualified, I might be, final levels. What should I be doing in terms of skilling, increasing my skill set for AI? What would you advise?
Well, the key thing is just to have a go, which now sounds really silly, because it seems like, because before with technology, there was always a barrier there. You could say use computers. Well, I have to learn how to use a computer. With AI, you don't have to learn how to use AI, because it's a chatbot. So you can go into the chatbot and you can ask it a question, and you can do other things. You can do loads of different stuff. But literally I train people in an hour and they can do stuff they've never been able to do before. And they're pretty stunned by it. But that's because the technology is amazing. That's the reason why, right? So it's just, how much do you love what you do? Because if you love what you do, you're going to have a natural energy around it. You can have a natural thirst for knowledge and curiosity. And this is what AI allows you to do more than ever before. It's not like using the internet, because the internet will just give you stuff. But what this will do will give you the output that you want. And just have a play with it. Yeah.
So can you see people putting it on their CVs and, as expertise,
Well, come on. Years ago, I can use Microsoft Word. I can use Microsoft Excel. I now can use the other 10 other packages that finance people use and HR people use. Of course, it's just another software. What they'll actually ask you for is, how did you use AI in your last job? In fact, they'll say to you, how are you using AI at the moment? Yeah, can you give me an example of when you used AI? Yeah, and you'll go this, what was the prompt you used? And can you show me how that works and why was it critically thinking? Now, I have the conversations with people in education, and there's a huge one around education at the moment. I'm just launching with a friend of mine called the AIteachercourse.com, because there's a huge opportunity in AI or in the education world where AI has to sit. Now, and I always get challenged with this question. It happened on a keynote the other week. And the person said, well, it's all very well, but what are we going to do with all this, with the curriculum, etc.? And I said, look, it's the same with maths and the calculator, right? The calculator came about. Did that change maths? Yes. It changed the curriculum? Yes. But did it mean that people didn't do maths? No. So it's like the same principle. If you're setting essay questions in the time of GPT-4, you're doomed, because no kids will ever need to do homework, because they'll just create a prompt. And they're doing it now, by the way. Right. So if that's the case, and by the way, AI word detectors don't work. It's absolute fallacy, and everyone now knows that. But it's just hilarious how many teachers think, oh, well. Anyway, but the point is, you wouldn't ask that. What you'd say is, you created an essay using AI. Great. That's what I want you to do. Just by the way, like the teacher would create the lesson plan using AI, because it's a much better way of doing it, because then you could be a nicer teacher and not so stressed at work. Anyway, all these things save time, right? And this is what teachers want, is time, right? Anyway, so you then come in and you say, right, you've created this from GPT-4, fantastic, or whatever system you're going to be using. Great. Now explain to me why that's good. Explain to me, and have the critical thinking around why the machine did what it did, but also why you liked it. And then let's all discuss the piece. It wouldn't be, that's around English and creative writing, but it's that next extraction of thinking that in education that we need to do, because the machines will do the heavy lifting, which is what we used to do. So the rote way of learning stuff. But you got to remember, this comes back to learning things as monks. You know what I mean? Like learning how to write from copying a page. It's the rote that is now gone, because the fifth industrial revolution is upon us. And then that fifth industrial revolution, you will not be able to just do bog standard work which anyone else can do, because the machine already does it. It's the exact same as writing it by hand or using a photocopier. That's not a job anymore. You don't have people copying stuff out by hand, because it's a silly job, because we have printers, right? Same principle now will be, have you created that report? Yes. Okay. But they won't care that you did it with AI. But what they should be thinking is this a good report? And do you know what a good report would be? And that's what we have to teach people now, is how do you know this thing is good and critically right and evaluated and researched? Because that's the outcome that bosses or leaders want. That's what they want, isn't it? They want it to be great, but how do you know it's great? And that's the deeper thing.
I think the photocopy analogy is really good, isn't it? So if somebody puts a photocopy image in front of you, or a report that's been photocopied, and they say, "I'm really curious, did you type this?" You're going to go,
exactly, and you go, what? No.
Well, I know there's 10 copies. How did you do it? And it's a bit like, this report, did you write this? Of course I didn't write it. I've reviewed it. I've looked at it. I've reviewed it. Dan, look, sorry, we've already taken too much of time. I'm going to do a quick summary, or try to. So, a few takeaways from me. This is going to happen kind of whether you like it or not. It is going to be disruptive. We've got this idea that it's not the technology that you should be afraid of, but the person with the technology. That's the person that's kind of going to take, I suppose, is going to take your job. And that maybe I was going to sort of get around to the idea of what it can't do, the personal skills, the reviewing, the deeper thinking around the purpose of the report. Those are probably going to be the things that people should spend their time on. And I did get one takeaway from you last time we spoke, and I just wrote it down. It says, "And learn this stuff now," which I thought was a good call to action. Dan, what did I miss? What one thing would you leave people with? And can you also come back to us and say, where can we find out? What do you read? So genuinely interested in where you get your ideas from, but where can people find out more about what you do? You've mentioned some keynotes. Do we just Google you? What's the best thing to do there?
Well, if you want to find out more about AI, certainly what I do keynotes on the future of work and technology and AI. Just have a look at Sodergren.com, because most of my information's on there. I also have a couple of great agents, which are Pomona Partners, is the one that really specializes in my stuff I do in the UK. So if you want me to do talks and things like that, that's awesome. Happy to do it. Certainly from an AI point of view, kind of my key message is always the same, which is don't fear this. This is not something to fear, because the only thing in life which is always the same, the only constant, is change. Change always happens. And if you have a fixed mindset and you believe you are technically good and therefore you should be paid and the world shouldn't change, you're in for a deeper understanding later on in life, which is the world always does change. AI has made it so, as Tom Cheesewright, my mentor and boss, says on the speaking side, says about high frequency change. It's a great book that's worth reading. And so that high frequency change has happened. Lots of people didn't see AI coming. Okay, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You can't put your head in the sand around this. And if you do, you're missing out on one of the most important things that's ever going to happen in your life. Now, people get a little bit kind of semi-cross with me and they say, well, it's just all hype and nonsense. I can promise you as a futurologist, it is not. Okay, the same people said that the iPhone would disappear and Nokia would exist forever. The same people told me that, there's so many different stories of the fact. I mean, remember, go back, they weren't telling me this, but go back in history, people were scared of the bicycle, and the bicycle was going to ruin the world, right? They're the same people every time. So just be careful. Just think about it from your own self-agency. Better to not listen to those folk. People thought that electricity was going to kill everybody and that it was going to control the things, and it was mind control. They literally did. Look at history. Look at every single time a new technology happens, people panic about it and say the world's going to end. The world doesn't seem to end, and the world is not going to end because of AI. It certainly is not. But even if the world does end, what difference does that make to you now? That's like too high for our pay grade, yeah? You just work out what you can do to make your life better, so you can see your friends more and see your family more, and make more money. They're important things. This is AI. AI can help you do all of those things if you just give it an hour, a day, maybe a month of your time to learn the stuff in your particular industry. You can be above into the top 10% pretty quickly. Now, if that isn't exciting to you, I would imagine you're in the wrong industry, because that should be exciting for everybody.
Dan, thanks for joining me.
I sense we're in trouble because the producers arrived, because I've seen her appear godlike of others. She's like, oh,
I came to clap. I came to clap you.
Oh, she's so good at lying. I like that. Lying. Did any feedback stuff happen? Did I fuck it up?
No. It was fine. Sound wise.
I lost the hearing a few times. Did that come through to you? I just lost sound.
No.
It's not just me. Stuart, even with Stuart's amazing setup.
I just lost the odd word for some reason.
I lost the odd word, but only about 3-4 times, so it should be.
Okay. So I have this now as audio, yes, on my computer.
So yeah, when you exit this, it'll start generating a folder with all the audio and a video in.
Okay.
Have you been on WeTransfer before?
Yes.
Yeah. Some people say they haven't.
No. It's sorry. Just because everyone WeTransfers everything to me because it's always too big, so it made me smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. All good. I should pay for it. I've never paid for it. Go on. Sorry.
If you just send the full folder that converts, it'll just say audio record. If you send everything in that folder to my email, I'll put it in the chat now, but I emailed you the other day, so.
Oh, did you? Because I'm not, unless, I know it sounds awful, unless it goes through my agent. I don't remember stuff. It's an old man who doesn't remember stuff, which is why I have to have an agent, because then I'm like, oh, did you send it to my agent? And then they remind me to do stuff, because I'll just bloody forget, because I'm rubbish, which is the whole point.
Okay, so this is,
thank you. This is the way I looked at it. This is why I have 3 of them. That's what my bloody agent does. Anyway, I've just sent her a bottle of wine, because I'm such a bad client. I always say that. Well, my agent will do it. She's like, I'm not your mum, Dan. Remember stuff. Sorry, Rachel, good point. Have a bottle of wine. I'm so sorry. She's got a bloody good point. So with the audio, so what I can do, Stuart, here's a little thing. So what I can do, I can now take the audio from what we discussed today. Yeah. Yes. I can pop it into, I can do it 2 different ways, actually. I can do it 3 different ways. I'm so clever. I wrote a whole book about it. So I can pop it into VoicePen. Yeah. And VoicePen will transcribe it. Now, this used to take me hours to do. So you're talking about how you save time. So I put it with a VoicePen, it would then transcribe it. I can then put it to GPT-4. It'll write a blog about it with my keywords in it and link it back to my site. And I can have that blog up in 20 minutes, where normally it would take me a day to listen to it all, take the notes, listen again, write up the notes, do the thing. It'll do it instantly in 20 minutes.
Yeah. I took one of the podcasts. I interviewed our CEO. We don't normally do internal people, to be honest. And I just practiced with that the other day. I just put the link into the podcast. I said, can you summarize it for me?
That's it. It's just so yeah. So, but if you like, so I'm not an affiliate of VoicePen, but I would definitely recommend VoicePen, and just because it's $15, right? So all your podcasts you've got for all the years over the time with the wonderful work with Reform Radio, thanks so much, what a great plug, is you can then put all that and create blogs out of each of them, like in 10 minutes. Yeah. So, but then the great thing about it, Stuart, you don't have to do it. Just get someone else to do it.
Will it do video? Will
it
do this
transcript? Yeah, transcript's video. Just a bigger file.
Yeah, it's got an audio file. It pick the audio file off video.
You can put in a YouTube channel. You can put in a YouTube video. Anybody's YouTube thing on the internet, you can put through VoicePen and it'll create a blog out of it. Anyone's. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. But then the other one you can use, and this is just for if you're doing it with production stuff, obviously you can put all this through the script, I'm sure you're going to, but you could also put it through Opus Clip. So what Opus, and I'm going to do that now, what Opus Clip will allow you to do, again, if you want to come on my course, it's www.aimarketingcourse.co.uk. Good for everybody. Only £479, and I'll give you £200 off because you listen to the podcast. So, true story. So you can then put it through Opus Clip, and this is for free, and Opus Clip will create 10 videos almost instantly from the big video you gave it. Now, what's clever about this is it picks out the bits it believes to be the most viral.
Ooch.
Yeah, I know, innit? That's the ooch. And then it'll and you can do that through the different keywords. So it uses 4 different APIs to create the thing, but that's the special source ads. Now, this is my point about human beings. If I told you the exact truth, I don't use a video editor anymore because I don't need to. So he's out of a job. And that's AI taking someone's job. It's not, it's me replacing him because I'm using AI. You know what I mean? That's the reality, right? But because it would normally cost me 50 quid to get that thing edited, but there's no point because it would take me 3 or 4 days and it would cost me 50 quid or 250 quid to get it. Now I can now do it myself, but for 15 quid. So there you go. Anyway, I'll leave you to it.
Right. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Dan, do you want, I'm just thinking do you want me to remind you to send me the retransfer? But I'm just thinking you probably won't read my email anyway.
I don't know. No, it's all right. It's the give me 1 second. I just need to do 2 things. For some reason, see that is the weirdest thing, man. It literally is Friday the 13th. Now my laptop literally is running out of batteries, and it has the battery thing in. It's my tech's all breaking. Sorry, go on. What was your question? Sorry. Do I need to? Do
you want me to remind you to send you an email to send?
Oh yes, please. Yeah, and explain what I have to do. Oh yeah.
To send the audio.
Yeah, just remind everything you just said then. Just remind me in an email, and then in 2 days I haven't done it. Say, Dan, why have you not done that? I sent you an email. Oh.
You've just told me you don't read my emails, so
I know I'm not a monster. I just get quite a few emails. Just maybe in the bit, just put in like in the subject, just put urgent please in bold letters, and then I'll go, oh shit, gotta do that for Stuart and crew. I'll remember that. That's fine.
Okay.
If I do it now, I'll do it now. I can do it now if I can do it now before my 11:30, I'll do it right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll convert for you, and then I'll put my email in the chat.
So, but do send me an email. I'm about to go for a week. Send me an email.
Okay.
The week transfer thing. I mean, can I not just put it on the cloud and you just pick it off the cloud?
Possibly.
Easy.
However you want to try.
I'll put it in folder.
Okay. Yeah, just the whole folder.
Right. Also, Stuart, I'm going to pop something on LinkedIn, but with a picture of us from before, and we were just chatting. And then I'll do a blog about it next week. And then when's it coming out? Do we know?
That'll be the Kaplan marketing function, but they know the urgency, so I'll ask them to. You'll find out because Joe will tell you.
Flag that as like the reason I did it was so it comes out soon. Because otherwise you kind of got me by the short and curlies because I've already fucking done it. Sorry, it's coming out in 2024. Oh, right, great. Because obviously AI, it will look shit if it comes out in a month because lots of things might have changed.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
anyway.
I just got to edit and then it will go. I don't see any barrier to it going out after that.
Marvelous. I'll talk about on LinkedIn. Tell your marketing folk that I will do that now, and then they can share it and do whatever they want.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Loads of
pleasure. Enjoy Friday 13th.
And then what do I do with the microphone that didn't work? Do I just?
Someone will be in touch with you called Joe.
Grazie, Joe. Will be in touch. Thank you. You're both stars.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye. Bye. Okay. So if I start, I'm still recording. It's a whirlwind, isn't it? Stop recording. I'm going to
Yeah.
stop recording.
Yeah, you can.